Astrologers, and welcome to my first guide for Heavensward Patch 3.0, the Astrologian. I'm Ari, this is Blizzana Gaming, and I hope you enjoy. This guide will feature a 5-part system where we'll go over skills and traits briefly, cross-class abilities, the card system, my tips and tricks that I've learned along the way, and my thoughts on this class. First up, skills and traits. First thing we're going to talk about are the two stances that you get as the Astrologian. One's the diurnal sect, which increases attack speed by 5% while adding a regen effect to certain actions. The other stance is nocturnal sect, increases healing magic potency by 5% while adding damage nullifying barriers to certain actions. Neither one of these can be used or removed during combat. You have to put your stance on before you start any kind of combat, and it also shares a recast timer with the other sect. Now for the heals. The first skill that we have is Benefic. This is one of your main heals. It's comparable to the Cure 1 from White Mage. It restores target's HP with a cure potency of 380, and it has an additional effect of 15% of a 15% chance that the next Benefic 2 will have no cast time. Duration is 15 seconds, and you get that from a trait which we'll go over in a few. The next skill we have is Benefic 2. This is comparable to the Cure 2 from the White Mage, restores target's HP with a cure potency of 620. Some may say that Essential Dignity is pretty comparable to the Lustrate from Scholar, but I have to kind of disagree. While it's an instacast off the global cooldown, it doesn't have any stacks where you can use it multiple times. You only have a 40-second recast after you get the trait for it. It has a cure potency of 400, but the nice thing about this skill is that the potency increases the lower the target's HP is. So say you have a tank who has 17k health and he gets down around the 50 to 100 HP left mark. That's going to be the most beneficial area for this skill. You're going to get the most out of this skill and the potency of this skill at that point, but you're never going to, hopefully as a healer, let a tank get that low. There's also a couple tips and tricks with this skill that I'll go over later in the guide. The next skill we're going to look at is Helios. This is comparable to the Medica from White Mage. It restores your own HP and HP of all nearby party members with a cure potency of 290. Now the next two skills are what your stances affect. That's Aspected Benefic and Aspected Helios. Aspected Benefic basically turns into a regen or an adloquium from the Scholar and White Mage, depending on which stance you're in. It restores target's HP with a cure potency of 190. In Nocturnal Sect, the cure potency jumps up to 250. Diurnal Sect effect adds a regen with a cure potency of 100. The duration is 18 seconds. And in Nocturnal Sect, erects a magic barrier which nullifies damage equaling the amount of HP restored. Duration 30 seconds and cannot be stacked with Adloquium. The difference between this skill and in the Nocturnal Sect from a Scholar's Adloquium is that even if you crit your skill or your shield, say you get a 2500 crit, that's just a 2500 shield. Like it doesn't get the crit bonus like Adlo does, where it would have doubled the potency of the shield off of getting that crit. It's unfortunate, but the trade-off is that it's an instant cast, where Adloquium's still a 2-second cast skill. The next one's Aspected Helios. It restores own HP and the HP of all nearby party members with a cure potency of 140. The Diurnal Sect has a regen effect with a cure potency of 50, duration 30 seconds. And Nocturnal Sect erects a magic barrier which excuse me, nullifies damage equaling the amount of HP restored, duration 30 seconds, and cannot be stacked with Adloquium. This is basically your Medica 2 and your Sucker from the White Mage and Scholar, depending on what stance you're in. Exalted Detriment is your Asuna or your Leeches. This is your Cleanse ability. Now we're going to get into a couple of the more interesting skills that we have at our disposal. The first one up is Disable. It's an insta-cast with a 60-second recast time, and it reduces the potency of the target's next action by 10% with the trait that it gets. It's on the target for a duration of 10 seconds. Now the difference between this skill and Virus from the White Mage and Scholar, if you had the cross-class abilities for it, or as a Scholar you got it, is that when you put Virus on a target, it stays there for that whole duration of the skill while reducing the stats of the target that you put it on. Disabled, on the other hand, you have to kind of time. It makes this class really intricate and really based on kind of your timing and stuff, not only with this, but with your card system and the utility that you have with this class, but mainly with this skill, because you have to watch out for auto attacks. You have to know the content that you're doing, and you have to kind of see where the auto attacks are coming in, but knowing when the next skill is going to hit your tank or hit a hit a DPS, or even hit you as a healer. You have to be able to quickly throw this on the target so that, unless it has a long cast time, like something from Ravana where he's doing his charged up swing that knocks everybody back, you really don't have any time to throw this on the target unless you know what you're doing with it. Because if you throw this on here and the enemy does an auto attack, it will take Disable off, and it won't have any effect on the next skill. The next skill is Sinistry. This is probably the most fun I've had with a skill, just because of what it does. This is essentially your pet system, quote unquote, for the Astrologian from the Scholar. It generates an etheric bond with a target party member each time you cast the healing spell on a party member, not under the effect of Sinistry. The party member which you have the Sinistry bond with will also recover HP equaling 50% of the original skill. It stays on the target for 20 seconds. It's an insta-cast with a 120-second recast. Now, the thing about this skill is, I usually throw it on tanks, but you can throw it on any other party member that you need to heal up. The reason why I like to throw it on tanks is something like Bismarck EX or Ravana EX, which is the current in-game content that we have right now until Alexander comes out, is that your tanks are always going to be taking damage. They're going to be tanking something. So if you can throw this on a tank and you have party members that you need to heal up, you're also healing your tank at the same time. And honestly, you could throw it on another party member and just heal the tanks, but the tanks are the ones that are going to be taking the most damage, or should be taking the most damage. So you're not going to get the best use out of this skill in that situation. The thing about this skill is that it's a bond between you and the target that you put it on, so you can't heal yourself. You have to heal other party members in order for your target to get the 50% heal off of theirs. Also, the thing with the skill is you have to single target the other party members in order to get the heal. So if you throw your Helios, or you throw an aspected Helios, that heal, even if you were out of the range of the tank, would not get that heal from that AoE, because you have to single target heal for it. Alright, the next skill is Luminiferous Aether. This is your Shroud of Saints from the White Mage, simply put. This is same potency, same duration, same enmity reduction. It's quite an amazing skill, but it's a skill that's not going to sustain you if too much unnecessary damage is being taken. The next one I'm going to get into, and I'm skipping over time dilation because I'm going to get into it with the card system. The next skill we're going to look at is Collective Unconscious. It creates a wheel of fortune around the caster. Effect granted to party members upon entry differs depending on the active sect. Can only be executed when a sect is active, and the effect ends upon using another action or moving. It's an instacast with a 90-second recast. The diurnal sect effect has a regen with a cure potency of 150, duration 18 seconds, and the nocturnal sect reduces all damage taken by 10% for a duration of 18 seconds. This is what I call the Moses bubble. This is the move that you've seen Y'shtola use in some of the cutscenes to save some of the scions. It's just a huge bubble, and you can't move. Unlike Sacred Soil from the Scholar, you can throw it down, you have the damage reduction for everybody, and you can continue to heal. Not the case. You have to, or excuse me, not the case with this. You have to be able to rely on your other healer and use this kind of a little more sparingly, because you're not going to be able to move or use any other actions in order to help out your other healer at the time. So it's a very, very situational skill, but it's part of our arsenal and it's very helpful in certain situations. Now, one skill that I don't have on my bar and I need to do more testing with, and so far I really just don't enjoy this skill, is Light Speed. It's an instacast with a 150-second recast time, reduces cast times for spells by 2.5 seconds, while reducing magic potency by 25% for 15 seconds. The reason why I don't like this is that while it makes most of your skills instacast skills, it reduces your healing potency by 25%. Not only healing potency, but your attack potency as well. And you have to wait on the GCD. I really haven't found a way to use this properly to where I get any kind of benefit out of it, or I feel like I'm just not nerfed into the ground. Now we're going to get into some of the DPS skills. The first one up is Malefic 2. It deals unaspected damage with a potency of 200. This is your single target nuke. You have two dots with this class, Combust and Combust 2. The first one's Combust. It deals unaspected damage over time. It's an instacast dot with a potency of 40, duration 18 seconds. The next one's Combust 2. It's a 2.44 second cast dot with a potency of 45, duration 30 seconds. Honestly, you should have these up on the target at all times. They're just so powerful. If you're DPSing, if you have room to DPS, you should have your dots up. The next one we're going to talk about is Malefic. This is a 50 potency less single target nuke. This is the first one that you get, and honestly, I'd switch it out with Malefic 2. The MP cost while it's almost 200 difference, it's not really beneficial to use Malefic unless you're DPSing a lot over time. If you're just doing short bursts and stuff, Malefic 2 is gonna be so much better. The next skill we're going to look at is Stella. This is more of a PvP move, but I keep it on my bar for any kind of crowd control that I need. Say an ad gets away from the tank, or there's a mechanic that's sort of like the Dread Knights from T5. I can have this so I can slow the target down. It deals unaspected damage with a potency of 100. The additional effect is a 40% heavy. The duration is 20 seconds and 12 seconds in PvP. Like I said, this is more along the lines of a PvP skill. The only reason why I keep it on my bar is for any kind of crowd control that I need to do, and it's something that I wouldn't spam. It has a lower potency than Malefic, and it costs roughly about 100 MP more. Now this isn't a per se DPS move, but it's something that I lump into it, is Celestial Opposition. It's an insta-cast, 150-second recast time. It stuns all nearby enemies for a duration of 4 seconds, 2 seconds in PvP. But the nice thing about this is that it also extends the duration of beneficial effects cast on yourself and party members by 5 seconds. And that's something that we'll get into once I get into time dilation, so I'll come back to this. And last but not least, we have Gravity. This deals unaspected damage to a target and enemies near it with a potency of 200 for the first enemy, 10% less for the second, 20 for the third, 30 for the fourth, 40 for the fifth, and 50 for all other remaining enemies. This is your big AoE nuke. That's simply put. It hits targets. Flare and Holy were both reduced the same way as this skill is, so just use it if you can. It has a high MP cost, so I would make sure that you have Luminiferous Aether up when you're going to use that. And I didn't go over our res, but it's called Ascend. It's the same thing. It's your res. It resurrects the target from a weakened state. It has the same cast time as Raise. There really wasn't any reason to go over this, I felt. Now on to the traits. We're not going to go over any of the Enhanced Mind. You get Enhanced Mind 1, 2, and 3. You get Magic and Min 1 and 2. All healers get that. I'm not worried about those. We're going to go over the actual class skill traits that you get. The first one's Enhanced Light Speed that reduces Light Speed's magic attack decrease to 25%. The next one's Enhanced Ascension, which allows you to use Ascend while engaged in combat. Enhanced Essential Dignity, it shortens the recast time to 40 seconds. Enhanced Benefit grants a 15% chance that your next Benefit 2 will have no cast time. And honestly, since this plays much, well, these two skills anyways, Benefit and Benefit 2, play much like a White Mage, I really wish they would have taken not having an no cast time on Benefit 2 and doing a MP reduction on it, like Cure 1 and Cure 2. Enhanced Disable increases the damage reduction to 10%, and Enhanced Luminiferous Aether increases the refresh potency to 80. Next up on the list are cross-class abilities. The Astrologian pulls from the Thaumaturge and the Conjurer. I have my 5 skills down here, and I'll go over why I didn't pick any of the other skills. First, I have Cleric Stance. You need this for your DPS. It switches your mind and intelligence. Otherwise, you're gonna hit like a wet noodle. I picked up Arrow just because it's free damage. It's another dot that you can throw up on the target. You must have Protect and Stone Skin as a healer. These are 2 staples that you have to have on your cross-class abilities. The reason why I didn't pick up Cure 1 is it's only 20 potency more for 100 more MP. It's not worth. I also didn't pick up Raise because I can't use it in combat for 1, and 2, I already have Ascend. It's the same thing. Now we're going to look at the Thaumaturge. I only pick up Swiftcast, which is another staple. It's a must-have as a healer. You need it for reses, you need it for quick emergency heals. The reason why I didn't pick up Surecast is this is more of a PvP skill. Most things in PvE, unless they're eating your face and the tank doesn't have aggro or can't pull it off of you, or you don't have Luminiferous Aether up to drop your Amity, or whatever the case, most things in PvE are not going to interrupt your cast even if you take damage. PvP on the other hand, if they so much as breathe on you, you will lose your cast. So Surecast is definitely needed in PvP. I also didn't pick up Blizzard 2. Ever since the nerf back in like 2.1, 2.2 to this skill, it's pretty useless. It's an AoE and it has a bind, but I don't need that. I just don't. Now what everybody's been waiting for, the card system. First I'm gonna go over the skills before I go over the actual cards. First is draw. It's an instant cast with 30-second recast time. You draw a card from your divining deck, execute a command again to use the card drawn. Only one card can be drawn at a time. The duration is 15 seconds. Recast timer will begin once the card drawn is read or the draw timer expires. So basically, this can turn from a 30-second recast into a 45-second recast, and that over time is going to be less help to your raid team. So you have to be quick on your feet, and why this class is so intricate, and why when I go over my thoughts, I'll talk about how I feel this healer really adds up to the current content and the other two healers. The next one's Spread. It's an insta-cast skill with a recast of 60 seconds. It adds the currently drawn Arcanum to your spread where it is kept indefinitely. Execute again to use the card. Can only be executed in combat, and the recast timer will begin once the card held is read. This skill is pretty nice, because if you draw a card and you don't know what you're going to do with it, but you want to put this back on cooldown so you're not wasting any time, and you have Spread up, you're in combat, you have to be in combat for this, you can hold on to that card indefinitely until you try to figure out what you're doing with it. Now, the only thing with Spread is once you spread it, you can't Royal Road it, and you cannot shuffle it. It is yours indefinitely, so you have to be able to use that card on someone somewhere. Or you can hold something, Royal Road another card, and you can use that card to buff it. The only thing with this skill is though, and what Astrologians should remember is that in order to hold the card initially, you have to be in combat. Once the card is held, you can use this or use that card at any time. You don't have to be in combat for it. The next skill is Royal Road. It's a instant cast, 15-second recast skill that returns the currently drawn Arcanum back to your deck to enhance the next or the effect of the next card. The Bowl and Balance cards give you 150% potency. Arrow and Spear give you 50% potency at the cost of making it a AoE. And Ewer and Spire give you double duration. Double duration. The next skill we're going to talk about is Shuffle. It's quite a good skill. I can't say great skill because of the RNG factor of the actual cards, but this is an insta-cast with a 90-second recast. It returns the currently drawn Arcanum to your deck and draws another. This is essentially like a get-out-of-jail-free card, potentially. You still have to deal with the RNG factor of the card, so even if, say, you got the Spire and nobody needs TP reduction, it's not going to be a long fight or something, and you don't want to Royal Road it, you can shuffle it back in, but you may get the Spire again, or you may get something else that you don't want. You may get the card that you were looking for. It's kind of a crapshoot, and it's unfortunate, but this class and its support system, it's kind of like gambling. If you've ever been to the casino and you're rolling dice or you're playing craps or something like that, it's very much like just a roll of the dice, and whatever you get, and that's what you have to deal with, and you have to know where to put that amongst your party. Now for the cards, you have 6 cards at your disposal, all of them beneficial. The first one's Balance. It's a insta-cast, 30-second recast card, increases target's damage dealt by 10% for 15 seconds. You have the Bowl card, which reduces the target's damage by 10% for 15 seconds. You have the Arrow card, which increases target's attack speed by 10% for 15 seconds. The Spear card, which reduces the target's action recast time by 20% for 20 seconds. The Ewer, that reduces MP cost of the target's spells by 20%. And the Spire, which reduces TP cost of target's weapon skills by 20% for 20 seconds. Now with these cards, while they're all beneficial, they're very situational. Sometimes you just want to Royal Road it, or sometimes you just want to shuffle the cards in and try to get something else. Say you need damage reduction, or you could just use, you know, more damage, or you could use MP, something like that along the lines. Like, you want to try to get the cards that you can with the few skills that you have at your disposal. Now, something I'm going to talk about, getting back to the Celestial Opposition, is Time Dilation. It's an insta-cast skill with a 90-second recast that extends the duration of the target's beneficial effects by 15 seconds. This is amazing, but the thing, or the drawback to this skill, is that it does not work on the target's actual personal cooldowns. This is all the cooldowns that you add to the target. So you as the caster, your cards, your shields, your regens, that's what those or what Time Dilation and what Celestial Opposition will actually extend. Now, it says it extends the duration of the target's beneficial effects by 15%. I want to say that's a misprint on the actual description there, but I don't know. With the testing that I've done with several members popping their cooldowns, throwing my own on there just to see the difference, it only affected the shields and the cards that I had put on target. It didn't affect stuff like Blood for Blood, Internal Release, any kind of tank cooldowns, stuff like that. It just didn't. I don't know if it's just a misprint on the tooltip, but know that you're not going to be able to say, like with a bard, in the first like 12-15 seconds they've popped all of their cooldowns, they have all their cooldowns up, and then you're just going to be able to extend that by 15 seconds. It's not going to work that way. Now on to some of the tips and tricks that I've learned personally leveling this class and playing it through the current content. First up is going to be the Essential Dignity thing that I found, and what I see a lot of Astrologians not using because either they don't know or they're unwilling to use the skill so freely, is that if, say, you cast a Benefic or Benefic 2, if you do it immediately, if you do Essential Dignity immediately after casting a skill on a target, it will kind of take a snapshot of where the health or the HP was before, and you'll get the full Benefic before Benefic 2 or Benefic or whatever skill that you used on that target went on to that target. It's a very fine window, but it's off the GCD. As long as you hit it as an off the GCD to weave it in there, you're gonna get the full benefit of it, and you benefit of it, and you can essentially take a tank from no health to 100%. I mean, that quickly in 2 skills, a Benefic 2 and an Essential Dignity, and they're full. They're good to go. Now onto some of the card tricks, tips and tricks that I've learned with the cards. With like spread, it's very situational. I usually use it for like the balance or the bowl card, or if I'm running with a Dark Knight or Summoner, I'll save like the Ewer card. If I'm running with like a Dragoon or Monk or something like that, I'll save the Arrow. It's just very situational. I usually don't save the Spire or Spear. I'll usually go ahead and Royal Road those two, and don't ask me why, because like, I don't know, personally I just don't feel like I need to save the Spear unless we're going into a big boss fight, and I usually never get that card. I usually get like Arrow or Bowl card, and I'll save that one instead. I usually get these during the middle of the fight after they've already popped their cooldown, so I have to kind of hold on to it or royal road it or shuffle it back in. But that's just my luck with the cards. Now, royal roading, and something I want to talk about royal road that I didn't touch on when I was going over the skills, is that the actual effects that you gain. So the effects that you gain are from the card that you put back into your deck. So say you drew a bowl or balance card, you royal roaded that, you threw that card back into your deck, you didn't use it on any party member that you had. Now the next card that you draw is going to have 150% potency on that card, including the effect of the card. So say you did that, you got the 150 potency buff, which is a little cross. It's a little blue and silver cross. And you drew a bowl or balance card again. Now if you look at these skills, it increases the target's damage or the damage taken reduced by 10%. Well, 150% is another 15%. So that's a 25% damage reduction or increased damage dealt. It's massive. And it's for 15 seconds, and if you have dilation up, you can essentially double it. I mean, that's a long time. So you have a lot of things at your disposal when it comes to these additional effects when you royal road. Arrow and spear, while they're half potency, it extends the effect duration to nearby targets. And excuse me, I was wrong on my math of this. I believe it's 15%, not 25%. Now like the arrow and spear, it makes it an AoE like I was saying, but it's half potency. So say you get the arrow or spear, you royal road that, and the next thing you get is a balance card. Well, you want to throw this on the DPS because they're usually going to be standing within range of it, and the range of the AoE is like 10-15 yalm, so it's quite considerably large, and so every target is getting 5% damage increase. Over 6-7 targets, you're looking at a 30 to 35% increase overall. Per person, does it look massive? No. But if you can catch it when they're doing their burst or popping a few of their cooldowns, it's going to be more beneficial over the long run of the content that you're running for your raid group. The You Are Inspired, just give double duration on the next card. So for the balance, the bowl, and the arrow, who are all 15 seconds, that extends it to 15 seconds, which you can extend another 15 seconds with time dilation if you would like for a 45-second buff. Or the spear, You Were Inspire, are 20 seconds. So these are 40 seconds. You can essentially have a 1 minute reduction on your target. It's really massive to have that long. I mean, 40 seconds is a long time to have MP reduction or TP reduction. I mean, just think of the amount of skills that a class is going to be using in 40 seconds. Now for my thoughts on this class. Coming from being a scholar main, this class doesn't seem like it's too much out of my wheelhouse. I also played White Mage through all the 2.x content, and while I enjoy both healers, this kind of gives me a taste of both of the classes. I mean, you have your Cure 1, your Cure 2, your Medica, even in Scholar's stance where you have your shields and stuff. So I feel like while my shields aren't as strong on my as on my Scholar, because I don't get the crit benefit from the ad loquiums and stuff, I feel like it's kind of evened out by the fact that I have AoE healing, I have, strong single target nuke healing that I can do where my Scholar really didn't have in the past. But like I said, overall, I love... Oh, excuse me, I turned myself around here. I love the class overall. I've had a lot of positive feedback from Raiden members, from my FC members, about the card system. They love having the cards there, especially if you play them properly. And I feel like it's an intricate part of this class. It's what makes this class what I feel moderately to a high skill cap, especially to master, because you have to be quick on your feet. You have to know what you're doing with these cards when they pop up, and you have 6 cards you can play with. So like, you have to know what your surroundings are doing, your raid awareness, because if you get a bolt card, you don't automatically want to shuffle that back in or Royal Road it if your tank is about to take a bunch of damage. You want to be able to mitigate that damage, so you have to really have a quick thought process when it comes to drawing these cards. Otherwise, you're going to get behind on your support skills, which probably is going to put you behind on healing as well. But those are my thoughts. I don't think the class is underperforming. I think the class is playing the way it should. There are a few bugs currently that they're fixing with, like Celestial Opposition and Ascend, but I think every class has got a little bit of that right now, and hopefully that'll be fixed soon. Other than that, like I said, I think this class really fits in with the other 2 healers. I think it has its own kind of niche in the healing world, in the healing meta, and I don't think it's honestly any less powerful than the White Mage or Scholar. They may be able to heal a little bit more, but you can bring more to the table. I think it balances it out evenly, and it's going to take a good player and a good raid group around it to make the Astrologian work to its full potential. But that's what we should all, and I hope everyone, strives for in this game. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this guide. This is the first guide of many coming in 3.0. If you have any suggestions or feedback, find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Twitch, all which are going to be posted down in the description below. Also, you can find me on Exodus server. I'm R.A. Valerian on that. And let me see here. Let me make sure I can put up my my name here. There you go. R.A. Valerian. I'm with Fairy Tale on Exodus server. If you have any suggestions or feedback, please let me know. Like I said, this is the first guide that I'm making, so any kind of feedback that I can get, positive or negative, anything that is going to help future videos, is just going to be more beneficial to the community. I want to bring content that everybody that can enjoy, and they're going to understand, and they're going to be able to learn from. So again, hope you enjoyed. Hope to bring you more guides in the future. Send me a message if you would like to see something. This is Ari with Blizz on a Gaming, signing out.